Greetings and salutations, everyone. Jeffrey Wheatman here from Black Kite. So today I am going to be talking to you about a topic that is near and dear to my heart and is actually really, really important and is a frequently asked question, which is how do we present risk to our board of directors? So I'm going to walk you through a template, and then I'm going to actually do a mock board presentation with a specific risk that we've talked about. So first thing is the executive summary. So the executive summary is sort of the aha, right? How do we get the board to pay attention? So the first thing we want to talk about is what risk are we talking about? And we have to highlight the fact that it's become significant enough that it's a board topic, right? There are lots of risks in the organization that boards don't necessarily care about, nor should they care about. The second thing is, why is it significant enough? So talking about business impact. So revenue, income, business objective, managing cost, expenses, regulatory risk, or some other business goal. So we want to highlight at least one. We don't want to talk about too many of them, but we definitely want to make sure that we are focusing on an actual business impact. Again, something the board cares about. Then we want to talk about an analysis, right? So a high level analysis. We want to talk about why is it a risk now? What has changed? What are some of the things that we have done? So what actions have we have taken? What protections we have placed? And what are our gaps? It's possible this is a risk that may be months, years old, and previous, we did a great job of protecting it. So what has changed in our environment? Then the penultimate thing is we want to talk about action steps. So what is it we are going to do to address this risk, and how are we going to update you about this? And then we want to talk a little bit about what the investment is, right? Because it's all about balance. It's all about investing commensurate with the risk, right? We don't want to put up a $10 fence to protect a $5 horse. So here's an example of what the analysis looks like. Our current risk exposure to this particular risk is extreme, high, critical, etc. We're going to talk about the things that we are doing now. Maybe it's tools, maybe it's people, maybe it's process. And then we're going to talk about the gap analysis. So where are some of the gaps? What are some of the things that we should be doing that we're not? What are some of the things that we could be doing better? So we want to talk about setting the table for the action items. And then we're going to talk about the actual action steps. So what is it we are going to be doing? We're going to highlight these things here. And we are also going to talk about the investment. So are there capital or operational expenses? How much time is this going to take? And what are the people? What's the impact on humans in the environment? A lot of people, small people. So we want to make sure that we are highlighting for the board what kind of investment we are talking about. We're also then going to talk about what happens if we don't do these things. So what is the financial impact? And we talked earlier about focusing on business impact. This is a slider that you may or may not use. This particular one is based on a FAIR analysis, which is a cyber risk quantification mechanism that helps people understand not just a particular number, but a range of potential impacts. So we want to talk about that as well. And then finally, and this to my mind, I've been in front of 100 plus boards and I've coached hundreds of CISOs and CROs and CIOs going in front of the boards. This is the one that most people skip altogether, which is what is it we want the board to do? What kind of support do we need? How is it we want them to help us so that we can further our action plan and treat or mitigate the risk that we are highlighting to them? I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with security people, risk people, IT people, looked at their slide decks. They do a great job, and then they don't talk about what it is they want from the board. So what are the action items? And the reason why this is a problem is the board, they're sitting for an entire day. They're seeing hundreds of slides. They're hearing about all kinds of things, but they need to know what they should focus on going forward. So what is it we need from them? So that is the sort of template approach, and you can customize this, and you should feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help. I've been doing this for a long time now. Now we're going to actually do a real life sort of mock presentation of what a board presentation might look like. So let me put on my sort of board face, and I'm not going to get dressed, but you should dress the part when you're going in front of the board. Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you so much for your time. We recognize how busy you are. there is something very important that we need to talk to you about today. And that thing that we want to talk about is the impact of our third parties, our supply chain to our business operations, to our resilience. Our business is very much based on relationships with vendors, with supply chain partners, with other third parties, whether they are physical or digitally connected to us. Our business is very much dependent upon them. We absorb risk that they have. We could be perfect, and we're not, because I'm never going to tell you that we are, but we could be really good, we could be strong, but if our partners are not, we have potential operational risk. In this particular scenario, this third-party cyber risk management, there are three areas of business impact that we want to call your attention to. One, we collect a lot of regulated data. If we lose that data, it's a problem. If our partners lose it, it's potentially a bigger problem. We are going to be held accountable through downstream liability. I could tell you from experience, regulators are not going to be interested in, yes, we lost the data, but it actually wasn't us losing it. It was our partner. Regulators, auditors, they do not care. The second thing is about operational disruption, business resilience. If an outage occurred at one of our key partners, if they got hit with ransomware and they were down for a week, what does that mean for us? And the answer is it would have significant impact on our ability to deliver, on our promises to our customers, our promises to our partners, our promises to our shareholders, our stakeholders, both inside and outside the organization. And then finally, we have contractual obligations. We have signed contracts to provide products and or services to our customers, whether it's through an actual signed contract, whether it's through a tacit, implicit, explicit relationship we have with customers that are paying us. So these are the three areas that we want to focus on. The analysis, currently, we are not actively monitoring cybersecurity exposure in our third parties, in our vendor ecosystem. We assess posture during onboarding, and sometimes we do it annually and ongoing basis, but that's just not enough. We are only focusing on our critical vendors. We need to focus on a larger swath, maybe not all of them, but we certainly can look at more than our top 25 or 30 vendors, which is what we are looking at now. Currently, criticality is assessed based on how much money we're spending with the vendor, which is not optimal. They may be providing us with outsized impact and benefit. We need to focus much more on the actual impact to our business. How much data of ours do they have? How much dependency do we have? Do we have secondary or tertiary sources for the product or services that we are committing? We also are not involving our business stakeholders enough. We in technology and cybersecurity, we're having discussions about cyber impact, but we're not bringing in the business owners. We're not bringing in the people that own the service from our third parties. And as a result, they are caught flat-footed and they say things like, how did you not tell us that this was a potential exposure? And there are tons of real-life examples out there, which we'll be happy to share with you if you are interested in having them. So our action steps, what is it we are going to do? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to improve our onboarding process so that we can account for both financial, operational, regulatory, resilience impact of issues within our third-party ecosystem, whether it's ransomware or whether it's something else. The second action item, our step we're going to take is we're going to enhance governance so that our business owners are involved both upfront and during the life cycle of the relationship with these partners, critical partners, as well as those that are maybe non-critical, but still important to be able to deliver. We are also going to be implementing a tool, which is a third-party risk intelligence platform, so that we can get continuous assessment. We can know when the risks have changed, when the cyber exposure has changed, when the behavior or the posture of our partners has changed. They may be perfect when we onboard them, but what if the CISO leaves? What if they have budget cuts? What if they stop spending money? What if the risk landscape changes, the threat landscape changes, the vulnerability landscape changes? We don't know how that impacts our partners. And then finally, we'd like the opportunity to update you monthly via single 1 or 2 pager, and we're happy to get feedback from all of you on what that should look like. And then we'd also like a few minutes at every board meeting so that we can update you both on our current exposure as well as what we are doing and how we are making progress on these areas. Any questions here? Nope. Great. So now let's kind of take it the next step. So currently, our risk exposure to cybersecurity incidents in our partners is critical. We are very, very exposed. Currently, all we're doing is sending out questionnaires prior to onboarding. We don't always have the time to assess them. We're under a lot of pressure to be able to get these partners onboarded very, very rapidly. And as a result, we don't always get to pay attention. We may receive questionnaires. We may see SOC 2s. We may see pen testing reports, but we are going through hundreds of them on an annual basis. It is very, very difficult for us to catch everything. We are currently collecting these data, but the assessment and the analysis of them is very manual. We have a team of 6. They all look at these things differently. They have different levels of background. We currently don't have a standard way of assessing what the exposure are and what the posture is. So that's our current state. Clearly, we have a lot of gaps. So first thing, we don't have continuous monitoring. We don't know when things have changed. We are not really doing a lot of technical validation. We're getting this questionnaire, and I would never, ever say that anyone is lying on the questionnaire, but sometimes people answering the questionnaires don't always know. They don't have visibility. They don't own all of the tools. A typical organization, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of cybersecurity tools at any one time. I can tell you from experience, there is no way anyone answering these questionnaires has visibility into all of that. We are currently not doing any business impact analysis. So in other words, we don't know what the financial, operational, or resilience impact would be of an incident in one of these third parties, critical or otherwise. We are not involving the business, and this is actually very much tied back to the business impact analysis. But right now, we are being handed these things. We are handing our recommendations back. There's a disconnect in communication. We are talking at one level around technical exposure. The business is talking about operational and resilience impact. So there's a disconnect there that is exposing us, frankly, to a lot of residual risk. We are not focusing outwardly. So we are not looking at what the attackers are seeing. And that is really important because they are our enemy. We're at war and we are losing in part because we don't have the same visibility as they do. We are not looking at the posture of organizations the way they are. As I said earlier, we could be perfect as defenders. We're not. We could be, but we are exposed and we don't have visibility into what those exposures are. And we currently don't have any way of looking at real-time risk, real-time exposure. We have no visibility into threat intelligence. We do it for ourselves, and our security team has done a great job of that, but we don't have that level of visibility in our third-party ecosystem, which leads to tremendous risk. We have a very, very complicated business model, complicated business architecture, and as a result, we are exposed from a lot of different angles at different levels, and we currently do not have visibility. Any questions? Okay, terrific. So now let's talk a little bit about our action steps. So first, I'd like to call your attention to the key at the top. We have assessed the investment according to 3 different criteria. So either capital or operational cost. So maybe that's buying a tool. Maybe it's engaging with a SaaS vendor that provides some cybersecurity capability for us. We have to be able to look at what the impact is. We may want to do this through a GRC platform, governance, risk management, and compliance. We may be looking at it through a risk management platform. There are a lot of different ways, but right now we need to focus on that. The second thing is, how long does it take to deploy a solution to the point where we get value? And then the third criteria we're going to look at from an investment expense is how many people need to be involved. And oftentimes we may have high people investment up front until we get some automation. So that's the key. And for each one of our investments, we have looked at the level of investment across those 3 criteria. So the first action step, we're going to be updating our partner onboarding so that we can assess the financial and operational impact of a cybersecurity incident in third parties across the board. We're not going to be able to go back and look at all of them, but we're going to start going forward. And then as we start to get a level of maturity and improve the process, we will then start looking backwards and assessing some of our critical vendors. And we believe over the next 18 to 24 months, we should be able to get to about 80% of all of our partners. The second thing is we're going to enhance and mature the governance so that we have better interaction with the business owners, with the business stakeholders. Right now, there's a disconnect, and a big chunk of that falls upon us. But we need to be involved. We need to sit with our business stakeholders. We need to ask them questions. We need engagement. And this is when we ask you to help us and support us in this very important set of initiatives. This is where we're going to need a lot of support from you, because they don't always want to be involved, and they kind of say, well, cybersecurity, that's your team. So we need to have better involvement, better governance, better accountability, better ownership of the risk exposure that we have within our third parties. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to need to make an investment in a platform that provides third-party risk intelligence. So that way we can have real-time visibility. These tools will gather a lot of data from the outside. They will analyze them. They will provide us with a real-time or near real-time continuous analysis and assessment of the technical cybersecurity posture, the financial exposure within the organization using cyber risk quantification. And we can talk about that if anyone has any questions. And we really need to move more toward real-time visibility so that we can make better decisions. We can do them in a more timely fashion. And then finally, we'd like the opportunity to talk to all of you. We recognize how busy you are, but we believe this risk is important enough that we need to have more face time with all of you. We are happy to do this either in stream with a meeting, out of stream. We can provide written feedback, reports, et cetera. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the metrics that we would like to be able to report. We would also like to request that you provide us with some time on the regular board meeting. This is going to take a little bit longer, but we probably only need 7 to 10 minutes. We recognize how busy you are, but this is really significant, and we have seen some very, very big incidents out there. And again, happy to share those with you. So you can see here the different levels of investment. Some of them are going to require more cap and OpEx. Some of them are going to be more time. Some of them are going to be more people-oriented, and we're happy to talk about prioritizing these. But we feel that in order for us to really manage this risk effectively, we're going to need to move on all 4 of these over the next 12 to 18 months. So here are some of the metrics that we'd like to talk about. So we have 4 sort of operational metrics that we think are important. So the first one is we would like to share with you on an ongoing basis what percentage of our third parties have not been assessed within the previous 90 days. We feel that that's a good target. We'd like to get closer to real time in the future. But for now, we believe that looking at 90-day assessments is good. These assessments suffer from inertia. So once the assessment is done, the value starts to drop over time. We feel 90 days is a reasonable target, both from an investment and from a risk exposure perspective. The second metric that we'd like to report to you on a regular basis is the percentage of critical third parties that have failed compliance checks, either compliance because of contractual requirements or compliance because of regulated data, compliance because of global regulations, national regulations, local regulations, et cetera. And these are just some examples. The third thing that we'd like to talk about is what percentage of critical vendors have what we deem to be an overexposure to ransomware. Ransomware is huge, big business. These organizations have ground organizations, partners of ours in the past to a halt. We see news stories about it on a regular basis. I know all of you read the Times, the Journal, et cetera. You see these things. It's not just about data loss. It is frequently about operational impact. And then we also would like to report to you on the percentage of third parties that have open critical vulnerabilities. You all see the news. You hear about things like Log4j and SolarWinds and Snowflake, and all of these are critical vulnerabilities that have indeed been exposed in our ecosystem. And therefore, we have impact as a result of those. And on the right-hand side of the slide, we'd like to talk about some specific things. So we'd like to report to you the top 5 third parties or vendors that are really exposing us to significant financial impact. We can expand this list if you like. We can talk about how to customize this. Right now, it's purely financial, but we can absolutely get feedback from all of you and from our executive leadership team to talk about how we want to prioritize, whether it's more, whether it's less, whether we want to look at different kinds of exposure. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, we'd like to share with you some financial data. We have implemented a mechanism, or we would like to implement a mechanism that will help us understand the financial impact of exposures within our third-party ecosystem. And you can see here, we're going to come to you with a range. We recognize if we come to you and tell you the risk is $9,497,356.12, you will not believe us, and you shouldn't. But we will tell you, based on analysis and some models that we're happy to share, that our exposure is within this range. We believe the most likely impact is this. And again, this is not our risk. These are just numbers for illustration. Any questions, anything you would like to see that maybe is not in here, any expansion on why we believe these are the key metrics? Okay, excellent. So now we get to the nitty gritty. So what is it we would like from all of you? The first thing is we'd like to create a project charter. We believe the only way to make sure that this is important to the organization is for all of you to sign off on that charter. If you indicate that this is important, we will be able to get the organization in line, and we will be able to do the things that we need to. We'd like to get some support for you with the executive leadership team. If you indicate to my colleagues in the C-suite that this is important, they will believe it is important. We will have a much easier time engaging, and the organization will be much better off. We also would like your authorization, either directly or indirectly, to make some investments. There are some allocation of resources, people, process, and tools that we showed you on the previous slide. And then we want to make sure that we understand what is important to you from a business perspective. Right now, we don't always have the visibility into the strategy of the C-levels. We recognize they brief you on a regular basis. So we would like to make sure that we have visibility so that we know what our corporate and enterprise objectives are. And therefore, we can make sure we are managing risk in alignment with business goals and objective. If the economy changes, if the business environment changes, we would like to know so that we can help all of you understand what your risk exposures are. So we'd like to thank you very much for your time. I am happy to set aside time to take questions, either now or, if you prefer, I will make myself available during our next break. I will also make sure that you all have my contact information, and you should all feel free to reach out to me anytime you want with questions, clarifications. I'm happy to brief you and get a little bit deeper into the weeds for anyone who may be interested. Again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate everything that you have done for us to further our goals and objectives and make all of us successful. Thank you very much.